We're going live.
Hey, man, what's happening?
Hey guys, how's it going, man? The Weathered Soul podcast going on right now, and yeah, hopefully everything works out. This is our first podcast with the let's see, what is it called? Da-da-da-da-da-da. I had it right here, and now I've got feedback going on too. So hold on. So we're gonna do this and go. Bang. There we go. So
Well, now you know
hey,
how
this
long
is
your processing time
we
is.
are we are recording now, and we're not live on the podcast yet, but we are live on YouTube. How you doing? For the Weathered Souls, I'm Weathered Soul Bruce, Weathered Soul Dougie right here. Say hi, Dougie.
Hi, Dougie. How y'all doing?
And hey, I got some new recording equipment. We're not going through a PC today. We're going through my new Tascam DP24SD, and it's a pretty cool unit, and I hope it works out really good for us. And wow, it's new toys, and lots of heated discussion tonight. We got a quandary. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that quandary tonight. We might talk about it later on at on our extra bonus content that we have, and you can get the bonus content by going to where
Oh,
patreon.com
patreon.com. Oh, I
forward.
didn't know I was on.
Come on, Dougie, you are a part of this podcast too.
Well, I was looking at your new mixer
Oh,
board.
I know he was. Anyway, you can get that at patreon.com/the Weathered Soul podcast. And if you go there for as little as $1 a month, you can get some extra content. And me and Doug routinely do 15 to maybe a whole nother show of content after we get done with the YouTube podcast and our other and doing the editing on the other side.
And
For the
we'd really love to answer some
we
questions
would love to
during
answer your
that
questions.
period. And we'd love you to have the
And
ability to send us
right, and
questions.
we got comments too. So our one comment that was says stay on subject. So it's just like, you know what, whoever sent me that, stay in your lane, okay? But anyway,
You mean we didn't cover something long enough?
apparently we were jumping from subject to subject last week, but it was kind of an impromptu podcast last week because what we had going on with I was supposed to have this board here.
Right.
Everything was supposed to
Yeah.
be perfect. I was supposed to know what the hell I'm doing, and now I'm scrambling and hoping that we have something really good to do. And then you're going to get all that nice noise tonight because we haven't learned how
We're
to
extra
suppress
bouncy.
that yet. But you know what? If you go to our GoFundMe site, and that's at GoFundMe.com, and you can say the Weathered Soul Studio upgrade. You can go there and you can donate some money, and we're going to use it to build up this studio so that you can see a real backdrop with some real walls around us with some real soundproofing and none of this rumble stuff that you're going to hear throughout the podcast if we happen to hit something. And all you got to do is to go fund me. None of the money that you're going to give us, whether it be at Patreon or whether it be at the GoFundMe site, is going to go into any of our pockets. We're not in here for profit. We're in here to get a studio built and continue this endeavor that I have of making this studio available to other podcasters that want to come in and share their content with you, because my content is not the only content out there. There's 60 million, freaking 600 million podcasts out there worldwide, and we're just a little dot in the sand. And but there's not enough studios out there for people that want to share their voice and their opinions and stuff like that. I'm only one opinion, Doug's only one opinion, but there's a lot of opinions out there, and I'll invite anybody who wants to have their opinion to come in and do their own podcast, come in to debate with us, whatever they want to do. So I'm kind of free with all of that, and sometimes I'll just walk away from the podcast. How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing all right.
I think we're going to try to start this up and see what's going on here. So it seems to be going around pretty good. I got a lot of hours remaining in my recording. We're going to find out how it goes with this new recording bit, and man, we're going to keep it going. So we won't have the luxury of having intro music. We'll do our own. We'll do our own intro. I'll do the intro after we get done, because that all goes together. We don't have to do that here, and once I learn how to kind of feed that in and get that going while we start monitoring stuff, we'll do it. But ready, 1, 2, 3, go. How's it going, Dougie?
It's going okay.
Man, dude, what a week it's been, huh?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's been an interesting one.
been a real interesting one for me too, man. Just all kinds of. I finally got my Tascam recorder, my 24 SD recorder from Guitar Center from the guys in Gilroy. Thank you guys. You guys are freaking tops. And had to go out tonight, and I had to go get another SD card because this thing records on SD card. Gets a great big wave file. You got to turn it in and do all the podcasting stuff to it. But yeah, hey, welcome to the Weathered Soul podcast. And we're live tonight, Thursday night. Two old guys just sitting around wanting you to get the hell off their grass. And well, we smoke grass, but
Lawn, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Get out of my yard. Stay on your side of the fence.
And how you guys doing tonight, man? We finally got our first comment on the podcast. And if you tuned in last week, we were kind of all over the place because I had a desire to have this all set up already and have this really killer sound that you're going to find out that you're going to get from off of this recording device. And I was just really excited about it. And of course, when we ended the podcast last week, we found out that we had only recorded 31 seconds of the podcast on my computer that's been screwing up on me. And so the whole podcast was a bust, except for the YouTube feed, which actually goes through these microphones and that camera that you're seeing us on now. And YouTube's really good about their sound. And I really, really lucked out because I was able to re-record the audio through my DAW software and be able to get you guys podcast out. But we were kind of all over the place last week. I apologize. We try to stay on topic, but we got so many things to talk about, and actually conversations and debates just take so many twists and turns. It's easy to get sidetracked into something else, and I think that's what's unique and fun about this podcast. I mean, I love your interjections with what we got into earlier tonight and what we got into last week. I mean, you definitely have a Trump hate, and I definitely have a really don't care about anything but draining all that swampy shit out of Washington and burn the place down. But that's just my libertarian point of view, and because I'd like to see it all burned down and just let us become a nation of states, and that's what we should be. But that's for another show on another day, man. So how you doing, Doug? What's going on with the week, dude? How you doing this week?
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
I've been glued to the TV with this with the news reporting and stuff like that.
I'm just trying to avoid it.
Trying to avoid it. Just kind of doing some side work.
Yeah, seeing what I've been trying to go kind of neutral, like I say, with the BBC News, World News.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to hear other things than Trump. Oh,
that's the noise you're gonna hear.
Yeah, you hear about it on the news. They call it Trump fatigue.
They call it TDS where I listen. So I listen to a couple of different podcasts, and they're both very starkly different podcasts. I think I talked about this last week, where Dan Bongino, who is a contributor to Fox News, but he's been on CNN and other places before. He's been contributors to other places, but he's got a podcast that's pretty right-wing, pretty Republican, but he's kind of a libertarian too. So that's kind of why I lean towards him and listening to it. And he's got a whole different take on what's been going on. On the flip side, you have Jimmy Dore, who's a comedian that has been on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's one of really good friends with Joe Rogan. He's on that podcast often. He has another podcast, and Jimmy Dore is a total communist socialist, just way out there on the left side of the other side, so there you got two wide sides, and then me and you, we kind of end up somewhere in the middle. We're not that far there and we're not that far that way. So I mean, so Jimmy Dore's on that side, but also he's got the same issues with the corruption and the conspiracies and all the crap that's been going on that we've been wasting our time on for the last 2 years. In my opinion, I think that we've been wasting our time on, because as a libertarian, I would rather not see. I would rather see a smaller government and just have the states and personal responsibility survive, instead of just being controlled by this government that wants to take us over and control our every move and our speech and everything else that this country was founded on. So those are the two different viewpoints that I listen to on a daily basis. There's some other wacko people out there. Believe me, I don't listen to. I used to listen to radio all the time. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levine and Savage and those guys, because they were on 560, and and those guys were just like, it was just. It was like,
Yeah.
it's like listening to Fox News when it's on the TV, because they're just bashing you over the head. I mean, if you go to the Fox News website or CNN website or the MSNBC website, you're going to get the news. You're going to get, reporter news with sources and stuff. But if you're watching the media or anything like that, or listening to Limbaugh, it's just a constant beat in your head.
Oh yeah.
Their agenda. And it's both ways, and it's just sickening. It just goes beyond what I believe, man, and how this whole thing is freaking run out. So we want to distance ourselves from that situation, because we want to stay off of Trump as much as possible. But I wanted to let Doug know what my position is, because I think he thinks that sometimes that I just listen to Fox News all the time, and I don't. I mean, I really don't. I despise any of the three major cable network newses that come out, and I won't even give any of the other ones a chance. I mean, kind of Al Jazeera has kind of spoiled me for real news. To be able to see news coming from overseas
Well,
in a
yeah.
different perspective than what our media sensationalizes. It's one of those things where I think it benefits you to, like you say, you listen to, was it BBC?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you
Like
listen
watching world
do you
news.
listen to
Yeah.
Sky News or anything like that either, or no?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And I listen to, I watch a couple of people on MSNBC and Chris Como on CNN. But it's the same thing. Like you say, it's the same drumbeat. It's their point, their talking points. Um, it seems as if, no matter no matter what the news is, they're having the same people commenting on it,
Yeah.
as if they're experts.
Right.
This is our Washington bureau person, so
Right.
they're
And
going to
that
tell you all about this, and they're going to tell you all about that, and um, some of it's actually news, and some of it's one sided. It's just people just yada 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 blah 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 blah, the same things over and over and over, and then some are more obtuse, and some are more direct. Some are saying their opinions, and others are trying to get you to draw the same opinion by giving you facts. It's all the same crap.
yeah. Yeah.
It's just they're marketing. I mean, that's the thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, Fox News has a format,
And their advertisers have
and
their
their
format.
advertisers and their
Yeah.
watchers,
Right.
and they're yeah, and then CNN has theirs, and MSNBC has theirs, and
Yeah.
PBS has theirs, and
Yeah.
you know,
Everybody has
yeah. I
their
mean,
kind of
I like
agenda.
to watch PBS, but it's very PBS is very left sided as well. They try to give you all of the news and straightforward, but even though they may cover some things that someone like MSNBC won't cover, it's still got
I don't
a
think that they're
slant.
really ultra left.
No, not ultra. No, no,
Yeah,
but it still has
yeah,
a slant.
yeah. It says a slant. I don't
Yeah.
mind slants so much as it's those cliffs that I care about. Those are the ones that I just can't stomach anymore. And I think that's what turns me off of most
Yeah, well,
of mainstream TV.
it's the war drummers. The boom, the
Yeah,
boom, the boom,
exactly.
boom, boom, boom,
It's
boom,
walking
boom.
into every
Yeah.
restaurant and airport that you see, and CNN's on, right?
Or Fox. Yeah.
I rarely run into very many places where Fox
Well,
is
maybe
on
not around here, but
exclusively.
in the rest of the country, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Run
Restaurants,
around
and,
here, CNN, all the way
yeah,
around here. They've got like some kind of monopoly, airport
airports. Yeah,
monopoly.
yeah. The airports have a lot of CNN going all the time.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Weathered Soul podcast. Like I said, we had a comment from my buddy Eddie, and Eddie is one of my band members of the Weathered Souls, and he says, "Stay on subject, please. Stay on subject." But you know what? There's so much, like I said, there's so much to talk about, especially around the city of Gilroy. There's stuff
Yeah.
nationwide that we like to talk about. There's things that we like to talk about, just to make sure that you guys know that we're just real people, just like you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
Eddie, we'll stay on subject. Just tell us which one you'd like.
Right.
Because we got them all, man.
That's exactly right. And I think and I think kind of being real with your audience is important, because we don't have any advertisers right now. We would love to have advertisers. Go to patreon.com/the Weathered Soul Podcast. You can become an advertiser.
Yeah, right. If you want us to say your opinion, send us money.
Send us money and I'll say your opinion. But we want to know that we're not paid. We're not sitting here dummies being paid for what we're doing. As you can tell, we're not, because we're so unpolished. But we enjoy what we do. We enjoy sitting. This is me and Dougie's time. You get to see me and Dougie just sit down. We just be able to talk and bullshit and talk about things around. And I know Dougie enjoys it, and I always enjoy talking and giving in my 2 cents. And we hope you enjoy it too. So keep tuning in at the Weather Soul podcast.libsyn.com is where you can get the podcast, or you can catch it on any of your podcatchers. So we're going to start off with a little Gilroy news and what's going on with Gilroy right now. And there's a couple things. This is going to kind of meld into a couple of different things that I want to talk about. And one of them is our tax dollars, because I always like to talk about taxes. I always like to talk about how I think that there's some taxes that are necessary. I think they should be more of a voluntary basis than they are at the end of a gun. But that's just the way some things do. Everybody talks about taxes, and what about my roads? So I mean, we all have our different opinions about that. But Gilroy came out and sent out a flyer last week. If you guys, my Gilroy audience, you kind of received this in the mail the other day, and it's about the police and the fire services update survey included. And what it says inside of it, and for those of you that are listening and are interested in Gilroy, it says, excuse me, dear Gilroy community, none of us will ever forget the tragedy that struck our community on July 28, 2019. Even so, we can all see the growing signs of resilience in our community every day. Gilroy Strong has come to mean something to bring our community together and continue to seek us, to help us heal. Our first responders went above and beyond to protect and serve Gilroy in a time of need. With the respect for all of them, we write you today with an important update. Long before July 28 tragedy, starting 3 years ago, our city council had been studying Gilroy's public safety needs in detail. Our studies have shown that there is a budget gap between the current and future service demands and existing police and fire service levels. To address this, the city has begun studying the possibility of a 2020 sales tax dedicated only to police and fire services. Asking our community to support such a measure would be a community decision, and that's why the city council has requested community feedback for important decisions that are made by them later this year. Your opinion is important. Please read the brochure, and it's signed by the chief of police, Scott Smithy, Jeff Klett, the interim fire chief, Roland Velasco, the mayor, and Gabriel Gonzalez, the city administrator. So that brings up interesting thoughts, especially when we talk about higher taxes. Now, I think we are at 9.75 now, because we just got a border put on, I believe in 2016 or 2014. I don't remember. Was it 18 or 16 that we raised the sales tax again? I don't remember what it was for, but we raised the sales tax.
Didn't we do a 0.25%?
We did a 0.25%.
2 years ago for roads, and then another
something like
0.25%.
And we're actually
year or two before that for schools.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing the the work for the roads coming in a little bit, but I think that's more state than it is city. But we're at like 9.75% for our sales tax. I mean, I think that's plenty, and I have my reservations about the needs of the community for the policing that we get and for the fire that we get. You know, it's nice to have the fire department, right around the corner from me. But basically, if we got a fire department that's constantly that's there in case you have an emergency, a medical emergency, a fire or something like that. It's nice to have them there. But then you
Mhm.
got the police department also, uh, that that patrols the streets. And we got a couple of articles we're going to talk about that involve the cops and as first responders for police officers and fire departments, I can understand first response, not a problem. What I have a problem with is the difference between the fire department and the police department. And the fire department actually doesn't go around looking for fires. They kind of wait until something's going on, and then they go out and they go either put out the fire or
They wait
investigate.
till they're called.
They wait till they're called.
Yeah.
Whereas your typical police officer is on patrol all the time. They're always on patrols. They're always on patrols. And there's something to that can be used, and there's been many things that have been being abused by police officers. Now, granted, that I always talk about these small slivers of society that do this, and unfortunately, this is one of those situations where a small group of bad cops or uninformed cops or nervous cops or mentally ill cops or whatever kind of cops you want to talk about that are trigger happy, power hungry, and we've seen many incidents around the Bay Area and here in town where that has happened, and I have a problem with that. I have a
Oh
problem
yeah.
with that.
Yeah, there's a big problem with that.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is. If you really want to get in depth with this, I'm not the guy to talk to. But if you want to listen to a real great podcast, and that would be Pete Quinones, Free Man Beyond the Wall. He's got a fantastic podcast. He is a libertarian. He is an anarchist, and he is not very happy with police officers. And he had a real good podcast today. If you wanted to go check it out, that would be at Free Man Beyond the Wall. You can get that at any podcaster too. So Pete, thanks for doing that out there. He's a little bit more radical than I am about police officers, because I think we need policing. Do we need policing that's um, that's paid for out of our tax dollars? That's still debatable. Is a government run policing agency better than a private run policing agency? I mean, we can debate about that on another show, or we can debate about it now. But
Well, one of the reasons that you have that as a public entity is because it's supposed to be not for profit, whereas a private entity would be for profit.
right.
And it would be for profit. Police department's going to start arresting people for ridiculous stuff. You won't be able to fart in public without looking over your shoulder to see if there's a cop there.
Well,
It's a big difference. It's a big
I
difference.
think being arrested for something other than a violent crime is pretty stupid, if you
Yes,
ask
and if
me.
you and if your raise depends on how many people you're going to arrest this week,
That's
you're going to arrest as many as you can for whatever you can,
and that's the problem.
and that's a
And
problem.
that's the problem, because actually what they're doing is, and I've been mad before, and when I've had police officers pull me over, I've often called them tax collectors, and they
Yeah.
don't like it, and but that's exactly what they are. And
Well, and there is one aspect of that is beneficial. I mean, there should be a way, and I know that there are states that have come up with this idea and implemented it, where things like traffic fines.
mhm.
All right, you pay your traffic fine, you don't get points on your license. For non like
It's quid pro
not
it's
yeah
quid pro
yeah
quo.
for not fully stopping at a red light before your right turn on red, or
Right,
rolling through a stop
right,
sign, doing 75 in a 65 zone.
right.
that kind of stuff. That should just be, write us a check and get on your way. Period. Nothing else.
If that.
Yeah.
If that.
Well, no, there should be, there has to be punishment for breaking the rules. It's either that, let's just throw the fucking rules out the window and not have cops at all. Then get your gun.
I say not turning on your turn signal and other frivolous stuff like that should not be a finable offense. I think
it should be, because your
no.
turn signal's there for a reason. It's a safety thing, and you endanger other people
God,
by not
please.
using it.
Please.
Don't God please me. It's the truth. Why the fuck they put them on the cars?
I understand.
Sorry.
I understand. Just I understand, but I don't understand, because victimless crime to me is just stupid. Now, let me see. Let's take.
It's not
let's
victimless.
It is victimless.
No, because somebody could be anticipating you going straight, and then you turn without signaling, and all of a sudden there's a dead person in the middle of the road. That is why.
And then you have.
Do you want to be that dead person?
But then you have personal responsibility, don't you?
Well, who cares that once you're dead?
Well, what does that matter? Because when you get in your car, do you turn your signal on every time?
Almost.
Why do you do that?
Because I've been trained to. Because that's how I was taught to drive. Because it says that in the freaking driving manual.
No. You don't do it because it said it in the driving manual.
Yes.
You said it because you were trained to do that way.
Yes.
And then you know that it's right from wrong, right?
Right. Because I was taught that there's a reason for that.
So then where does personal responsibility enter into your daily life, and then being a citable offense that gives you a fine at
let's put it this
level.
way. If I'm going to write turn on red,
who's the victim?
If I'm going to write turn on red and I have my signal on, and some idiot steps off the sidewalk and I hit him, I'm not going to feel so bad, because he should have known that I was turning.
Okay, but you should have saw him going.
And he should realize, as a responsible pedestrian, that I'm going to be looking to my left, to see if I'm going to get hit by a car, not to my right to see if I'm going to splat his ass.
And that's where your two personal responsibilities ought to come between. And then whether he's dead or whatever, somebody's got to be the advocate. You go to a moderator, you figure out what the damages are, and you settle it that way. And the freaking government is not freaking involved.
That's too gray. You need black and white. Yes, you need black and white in those. That's why we have precedents.
This is Dougie talking his argue with Bruce stuff, bringing the other side of the argument into it.
Absolutely. No. See, I'm a strong believer that in a society, if you want to be part of a society, then you've got to play by the rules.
So then you agree with I'm going to quote Dan Bongino. You agree with the broken window rule, and I'm going to tell you what the broken window rule is. Back in the 70s, you know how New York City used to be when you were down in Times Square, where they, it was pretty much a Skid Row type thing. It was all kind of junky and stuff.
It was really cool, man. Don't
see, they're really cool or whatever. You can be a beautiful person if you want to, but it was
you had porn shops, you had pawn shops. But you could buy a Nikon camera for $5.
But from what I understand from Dan Bongino's side of it, because he lived in during that and stuff like that, and he was a police officer at that time, is that the police officers at that time, or the police chief, didn't enforce a whole lot of these broke window laws, jaywalking laws, just, get caught with a joint on the street laws, stuff like that.
They didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. So when I guess it was Giuliani came in, it might have been Giuliani, might have been somebody before him. Anyway, Giuliani came in, put his foot down, and says, "No, we're going to start, doing all that."
Yeah, Giuliani.
Giuliani. Yeah. So then that's when, Times Square kind of took a renaissance.
That's when it went back, Disney.
And that's when it went Disney. Exactly. But because they had what they called, we're not going to stand for the broken windows, the broken window syndrome, we're going to clean up the city. So all of a sudden he starts finding people for jaywalking, starts finding people for soliciting prostitution, all the drug deals and stuff like that. So you believe in that. So I don't know. We've lost the war on drugs. We've lost the war on a bunch of different levels. With that.
One thing I learned is, if you're going to go to New York City and buy drugs,
Yeah.
you buy it from a police informant. That way, if you get caught,
or
the cop will just say, "Jimmy, man, I told you not to do that."
Or you buy it from
kids, get the hell out of here.
Or you buy it from the police, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But just kind of staying on the subject with cops and stuff is just like I just don't know what it's going to take, and when I listen to Pete Raymond and Freeman Beyond the Wall, I get a lot of insight as to the kind of um, policing that's going on out there. Some of the stuff that is racially motivated, or that is just power motivated, or cops are just mentally ill
Yeah.
motivated.
Well,
And and
yeah,
Amber Geyer, we just heard,
yeah, yeah,
this week with Amber Geyer, who just got sentenced for 10 years for shooting uh, Botham Jean, uh, while he was sitting in his apartment eating
mm,
ice cream, because she worked a 13-hour shift, and said that she parked on the wrong level, and she walked into the wrong apartment, and she subsequently shot who she thought was an intruder into her house, but she was in the
yeah.
wrong place.
You know, I spent 20 years traveling. You know, sometimes 4 different hotels a week
Mm,
for months at a time. Um,
man whore.
Going out late, yeah, yeah, going out, working late with clients, going out to dinner with clients, getting drunk, going back to my hotel, and there have been times where like I couldn't remember like which rent a car I had. Like, oh shit, what car did I pick up this morning? Oh fuck, was it? Oh, oh god, because I was already my third car that week, right? And I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting on a flight, getting to the airport. Everything's automatic. I just walk up and look at the sign that says funk, and I get in that car and drive off,
Okay.
right? I didn't even look at the color of the car. I mean, there's been times when that's happened to me. And it's been times where like, I couldn't remember which hotel room was mine. You have those keys now that don't have any numbers on them. I'm like, oh crap, what let's see. Last night I was on second floor. And I even had to go to the desk and ask.
Yep. Well,
But that's a lot different than my own home. I've never ever, even when I lived in apartments, two-story, three-story apartment buildings, indoor apartment buildings with hallways on the inside and hallways, outdoor ones with just balconies as you walk between the apartments. I've lived in all those, and um, I've forgotten where I left my car, but I never ever missed my apartment.
right. And I
That's
mean,
yeah,
I don't care if you're on. I mean, I've parked in parking structures before, and I have one that I park in sometimes when I go to my regular job, and every one of those parking floors, they were built the same way, but they've got landscaping to them. They got landmarks and stuff that you can see.
yeah,
You got people that park all the time in the same spot. You got, all this different thing that people have habit on, and you notice different things. Maybe the garbage can is over here instead of downstairs, it's over there, or whatever. There's certain landmarks and stuff, and I got to say that this it was very unfortunate with the Amber Geyer situation.
yeah.
I
Well, let's get down to the true point of it.
The true point is, go ahead.
Nobody, nobody, police officer, citizen, um, saint,
Hmm,
or devil should first reaction should be pull out your gun and start shooting.
I agree.
Okay, it could be the first thing you say is, "Hey, mf'er, what are you doing here?"
Yeah,
Real loud,
real
right?
loud, real loud.
Okay, something like that.
Hey, I got a 38-ounce
Yeah,
bat.
yeah, right. I got a Colt. It's pointed right at the back of your head. Now turn around slowly. And by that time, she should have realized she's in the wrong apartment.
Exactly.
Not
Well,
just swing the door open and go blah 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 blah. I mean, there is that certainly something suspicious about that.
yeah,
That's all I'm going to say.
there's a lot of things that are suspicious about that, and there's just too many incidents that we've heard, across the nation, and at least for me, because I listen to Pete Raymond, and that's just one of them, and it's very, very kind of an upfront, in your face national
Yeah.
news item with
And
Amber
the
Geyer.
saddest part of that is it was a trained police enforcement agent,
Right, and
a law enforcement agent, police officer
and
trained.
also these police officers these days, from what I understand from everybody that I've listened to, with the because you know the podcasts that I listen to, when they have guests on, these guests know what the hell they're talking about. So I believe everything, pretty much, everything except for what you think is bullshit. But you take that with a grain of salt. But
Well, I believe
police
they
o-
I
but
believe
police
they
officers
believe you
but
know what
police
they're talking
officers
about.
are being
Sorry.
trained in military tactics these days instead of what used to be just police officer tactics.
Oh, I agree.
And
I agree.
and that is a big change in the attitude of how these cops look at you when they have you
Right.
stopped or detained. And
Right. Well, because they look at you as the enemy who wants to kill them, and unfortunately, they have to for their own safety. But before we get too far off subject, to get back to your what you opened this with,
yeah,
the survey from Gilroy,
right,
what's important to you, blah 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 blah,
mm,
police,
right,
um, Gilroy strong, blah blah blah. That really scares me. We had a horrible thing happen in this town.
absolutely.
We had an idiot, mentally ill, jackass, whatever you want to call him, mf'er, come and screw the sanctity of our little town. This also happened to another town that I'm close to, back east, called Newtown, Connecticut.
Mhm.
Newtown was a sleepy little town. It was a rural, sleepy little town. It had a small police department, and now Newtown has got a tank.
Yep. I think we talked about this
Yes, we
before.
have
Last
talked
time,
about this.
the last time we talked about the
Yeah.
Gilroy Garlic
Yeah, we
Festival.
drive by the Newtown Police Department, which is how I used to get from the Hartford Airport to my parents' house. And for my entire life,
Yeah.
growing up, that's how we got to the highway by my parents' house to go anywhere in the state. It was, and there they were. There was one car parked outside and maybe one car on patrol. Last time I drove by there, I think I counted 25 cars in the parking lot. That's not counting the ones on patrol, and a big black giant wheeled pointy at each end vehicle parked in their parking lot.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
armored car, not a tank, or whatever,
Right.
a
Right.
SWAT vehicle,
Right.
something you could drive through a war zone with.
Right. And to Gilroy PD's credit, I mean, I think they do a decent job. I've really never
Yeah.
had a incident where I've been confronted by them.
Well,
I've had them here before because we've had a problem with the car break-in, I think one time, and some other things, and they've always been really, really good.
certainly nice. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
professional.
certainly nice and professional.
Yeah.
So there is some professionalism, and like I said, there's just a small sliver of these rogue cops out there, and I think it has to do with a lot of training and stuff. But in, in that same breath, I just want to say with your Newtown incident is that I definitely don't want Gilroy to get into that situation
Right.
to where all of a sudden there's a lot of distrust with the police against the public. And
And as soon as I saw that flyer, that's the first thing that came into my mind, though. It was like, oh boy, they want to know. They want to know whether they can buy a tank or not.
well, right, because a 1/4% of a tax hike on our sales taxes is it's a pretty profitable offer when you think about number one, we're a tourist town, number
Yeah.
two, we
Well,
got
I would
the
vote for that if it was for non-residents. Like, if you show your Gilroy address, you don't pay that extra tax.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
way to tax
Yeah.
you. Come to my town.
Otherwise, with all the houses we're building in this town, there should be enough new property tax revenue to take care
Well,
of
you see,
everything.
now there's another thing that we're talking about now. They're talking about their resources being stretched out, but yet we're building houses and subdivisions and other
Yeah.
things where those property
Yeah.
taxes should be in
Yeah.
line with whatever we needed to go forward with expanding our police
Right.
department
I mean,
or our fire services.
how many houses do you have to build to get $1 million revenue in taxes? Now, at the price of houses now,
At the price of houses now, it
10,
doesn't take
11
much.
maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
So it's how you're appropriating your salaries and stuff at the
Yeah, you're building 1,700 houses at a smack.
yeah. So I mean, we got to look at the financials on that. But I think it's very important that you guys take heed of this. Guys need to go down and get involved with the city councilor or city council and make your voice heard. I'm going to be putting in my 2 cents on that flyer and send it in because I definitely don't want them to have a 7-0 vote on this thing and just be able to slam dunk a tax in whenever they want to. I think it's going to go for the vote to the people, but they'll slam dunk it to say that we're going to do the initiative.
Well, we have a really nice police department that we can be proud of.
Yeah.
Um, You don't get to see much of it if you go in there. You have to be invited in by an officer to really see the inside of it. You can't just like take a tour. But from the outside, it looks pretty
But yeah, it's
impressive.
a pretty impressive place.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have fire departments like that too. You
Exactly.
know, but in time
Well,
and
I'll tell
when
you what,
needed.
I was very disappointed to see that this last year had seen the locking down of our fire departments. So it used to be able to
Yeah,
take Anthony to the fire
yeah, yeah.
department,
Walk right in.
walk
Yep.
into the yard, say hi to the guys,
Yeah,
and now they got them all fenced
yeah.
off.
I did that with
Eh,
Abby's nephew.
Yeah,
Our
and
nephew
I'm
many
just
times.
not happy with that because you know what, guys, we pay our taxes. Those are our police departments. Those are our fire departments. That's our library. That's our city hall.
It's our road
Those are
department.
our road departments. It's ours. They work for us. So all those things should be accessible to us at all times, 24/7, not just because we need to call them and have them come
Well,
our
I can
way.
see, I can see needing to go to the front door, not just walk in through the bays when they're open because of safety reasons.
Well, yeah, I understand that too, but then again, there's always this little greeting area where I mean, the fire department that we went to, it's just like me and Anthony never walked into the bay or anything like that. It was always a go to their back door, their front door, and knock on it and say hi,
Oh,
hello, Anthony with a with a plate full of
we,
cookies or
we went
brownies.
went there
But
with our nephew one time, and I don't know, he's probably 4 or 5, and he saw the fire trucks, just took right off, right
oh,
into
there it
the.
is. But if that becomes an initiative, I want to let you guys know that the Howard Jarvis Tax Association came out with a newsletter not too long ago. So actually March 3rd. Actually, it was before that, but it's about March 3rd, 2020. Do you know what the significance of March 3rd, 2020 is?
No.
March 3rd,
No.
2020 is California's statewide primary.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
Californians accustomed to
Yep.
voting in the statewide primary in June may be surprised to learn that for 2020, the state has moved its primary
Uh
earlier on the calendar. The date of
huh.
the California primary is March 3rd, and candidates are already beginning to file papers to get on the ballot. The Howard Jarvis Tax Association will invite candidates of all offices to send our pledge to stand up for taxpayers. I'm gonna stop there because it gets pretty political. If you don't like Howard Jarvis, that's your business. But I just want to let everybody know that on March 3rd this year, not in June, we're having our state
Yeah.
primary, and then we'll also probably not only in the primaries, we'll be probably talking about initiatives and other little issues. So just be abreast that that tax is coming up and all the other things. And to get back on the subject of the militarization of our police officers, and I showed this before the show to Dougie, and it just shows you some of the abuses of power that people have. And this is out of Georgia, and it's pretty freaking eye opening. So the 11th Circuit's decision on Corbett versus Vickers, handed down last week, constitutes one of the most grotesque and indefensible applications of qualified immunity I've ever seen. And the case involves a claim of excessive force against Michael Vickers, a deputy sheriff in Coffee County, Georgia, who shot a 10-year-old child lying on the ground while repeatedly attempted to shoot a pet dog that wasn't posing any threat. Without even deciding the constitutional questions, a majority of the 11th Circuit panel granted qualified immunity to Vickers simply because there was no case to point with on this particular set of facts. The key facts, as alleged with the complaint, are as follows: Vickers and other officers were pursuing a criminal suspect, Christopher Barnett. When Barnett wandered into the backyard of Amy Corbett, who had no relation to Barnett at the time, one adult and 6 minor children were in the yard. The officers demanded that they all get on the ground, and everyone immediately complied, and the police took Barnett into custody. But then the family's pet dog, Bruce, walked into the
The
scene.
weather soul.
Bruce the Weather Soul walked into the scene without provocation or any immediate threat, and Vickers fired his weapon at Bruce. The first shot missed, and Bruce retreated under the home. About 10 seconds later, Bruce reappeared and approached his owners, and Vickers fired again, missing once more, but this time striking Corbett's 10-year-old child, who was at the time still lying on the ground, only 18 inches away. The bullet tore through the back of the child's knee, causing serious injury, and the child suffered severe pain and mental trauma and had to receive ongoing care from an orthopedic surgeon. I'd go on. This goes on longer, but pretty disgusted at what I.
Well, to sum it all up is the 11th Circuit said we don't have a precedent for a cop shooting somebody in the back of the leg when he's trying to shoot a non-threatening dog, so we can't rule on it.
And this is one of
How
the problems.
bad.
And this is
How
one of the problems that
sad.
I'm hearing is that a lot of these police officers are being trained to shoot the pet, no matter what the demeanor of the pet or whatever. And I'll never understand it. If somebody came in and shot my dogs, I'd probably have to die with them because,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If
Right.
I if
Yeah.
I, if I have a gun, I'm shooting back. So I mean, that's the situation with that because yeah, I couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
let alone you're shooting at a dog, but then you miss and you strike a child
Yeah.
who is
Now,
complying.
yeah, complying with your orders. I'd be curious though, as it doesn't go on to say, if they're going to have any any civil action taken against a police officer or the municipality that he works for. Um, because there should be some sort of civil action where they can take them to court and sue them for all their medical expenses, all the stress, the kid not being able to, let's say, make $30 million a year being a football star now.
Yeah,
I mean, so that's 10 years. You owe me $300 million.
I'll have to agree with you
Bada
there.
boom.
I'll have to agree with you there. But then again, I'll have to say on the other side was what does that matter when
When you're dead.
you're dead or disabled or your dog
Yeah.
is dead or whatever.
Well, no, what it
And
is it puts pressure on the municipality so that it won't allow it to happen again. That's the only thing that it does. It doesn't fix anything.
I think it continues to happen though.
It does, but it puts pressure on. It's the only tool you have.
Yeah, yeah. I really feel bad about the whole situation. You know,
No, it's
I mean
horrible.
when I
I feel bad for the police officers and all the victims.
yeah.
So police officers, like you said, some of them are maniacal. Most of them are just trying to do a job and they're scared. Their adrenaline's pumping. I don't know what it would be like to work for a living where things are trying to kill you all the time. Right? I mean, what other job is like that? What other job do you have, other than maybe big game hunter or jungle explorer or something like that, where just in part of your everyday job there's a good chance that you just doing your routine job that you'll run into somebody who or something that wants to take your life.
Right, right. Well,
And have that on your mind all the time.
but I'll tell you, that's the job that you wanted, and that's the job that
Right.
you've got. So I
And you're getting
mean, and
compensated
you're
and
getting
you've been trained
compensated, and you've
for it.
been trained for it. So I mean, it's not something
And
that
also
it's not.
equipped.
Yeah, it's not something that the government came and said, Doug, you're a cop today.
Yeah, go out there in
So
your underwear
go out
and
there.
yeah, and get el guapo.
Go out there in your shorts and your black socks and your Oxfords and
Yeah.
go protect the community.
Right.
Hey guys, it's fair time. The San Benito County Fair is rocking and
Yeah.
rolling as we speak. It started today at 3 p.m. and it's going on through Sunday, October 6th at 6 p.m. And you can go out there and have a good time. San Benito County Fair. We live in Santa Clara County. We live in the southern end of Santa Clara County. But in all actuality, I think I take more benefit in the San Benito County than I do of Santa Clara County as
Well,
far as their
it's
amenities
more
and stuff because
rural.
it's
Yeah.
more rural and we're there. And the San Benito County Fair is small enough for you to walk around it in probably an hour, maybe, you know, 2 hours and see everything. But I mean, it's a nice little community, little freaking small fairgrounds, and they've got tractor pulls, and they've got the pig races, and the livestock, and the horse. shows, and they got the carnival, and they got great entertainment out there and good food. And I love fair food, so that's the reason why I'm going, because I want to go get some
Do they
fair
have a
food.
demolition derby or anything
They
like
don't have a
that?
demolition derby,
Ah,
no, but they got the today. Tomorrow they have the truck
the
pulls,
tractor pull,
the
yeah,
truck
yeah.
pulls, and then
Oh,
on Saturday they have the tractor
tractors.
pulls.
Oh,
They got the
oh.
tractor pulls, and I want to apologize. Uh, uh, Before I missed the party on on Saturday night, Tom, which is another weathered soul, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to make your party because I've been promising Anthony that I was going to take him to the fair and we're going to go do something. And the tractor pulls are on Saturday
Oh, yeah,
night,
and he'll dig that.
and he's going to dig that.
Yeah.
So we're taking him there. And I wish you a happy birthday, Tom, with your open mic, man.
Now,
And
are these like the touring tractors? You
they're
know,
not the touring tractors.
no.
They're the ones from around the area. I mean, they're pretty
Okay.
interesting. We got some
Yeah, yeah,
guys
yeah. Some
around here that
homemade
these
modified. Yeah,
homeboys, man, got
yeah.
some modified stuff out there. It's fun as hell, dude.
No,
I had a I had a kick in the ass just going and being there. It was really, really fun. And it's really, really loud.
Anthony loves anything with a V8 and no exhaust pipes.
Anything that loud rumbles and freaking looks mean, he loves it, man. So go out to the San Bernardino County Fair. It's hosted by San Bernardino County, and you can go to www.sanbernardinocountyfair.com to get all the information that it's on 9000 Airline Highway in Tres Pinos, California. So you just might want to go there and pick that up this weekend. And so I got this little thing going on with California because we like to be local around here. We're gonna stay more local than national with our news and our commentary and stuff like that. And I downloaded this from a website called Cal Matters. It's California surveyed rising homelessness concerns. They split on Newsom and no home state edge for Kamala Harris. And so I'm going to read you a little bit of it. So I'm going to go through this a little bit, and we'll just kind of comment it for the remainder of the show. And Californians are increasingly pessimistic about the future of the state and more worried about housing and homelessness more than ever. At least, according to one major poll, they're beginning to take it out on Gavin Newsom and the Democratic state legislature. In new survey results released today, the Public Policy Institute of California found that more likely voters now disapprove of Newsom's job performance than approve. But the new round of numbers are in sharp contrast to a survey released on Monday by UC Berkeley's Institute of Governmental Studies, which found likely voters approving of Newsom by a margin of nearly 20 percentage points. So there's 20 percentage points in between the two polling places. And what do you think is the most important issue facing the people of California today? Well, statewide, and let's see. So statewide, uh, homelessness is like homelessness and the jobs in the economy are the top ones, and then we
Mhm.
got housing, then we got immigration, the environment, the governance, the state budget, and crime is at pretty much right there, kind of along with education, infrastructure, gun control, healthcare, and water.
Is this a survey of citizens
These are
or yeah,
survey of
yeah,
citizens. Says yeah.
right.
So they took statewide, Central Valley, Inland Empire, Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, and San Francisco. The PPIC poll also found that one in California is now point to housing and homelessness as the most important issue facing California today. Of the 1,700 adults surveyed, 15% listed as homeless as a top concern, and 11% named housing. Another 15% said jobs in the economy. While jobs are a perennial concern for California, this is the first time the state's homeless crisis was the top source of public angst, said the PPIC president, Mark Baldassar. So I want to talk about that for a little bit, probably for the rest of the show, and you can look
Sure,
at the
absolutely,
rest of the
sure.
numbers and stuff like that. I definitely think that one of our number one issues in the state of California is the homeless population and the homelessness that we have. And you might disagree with me, you might not, but there's been some policies that have been put into place by different cities and towns, and approach from some of these rules that they've had back and forth between the years. But I'm not sure if rent control works, and this is with the housing problem. But I don't think it. I think it. I don't know how much that contributes. The housing problem contributes to the homelessness, as far as the availability of houses, not the price of houses or housing. Okay, because a lot of our homeless, from what I understand, there's a vast amount of the homeless that are mentally ill and are drug addicted, or of some kind of addiction that's going on,
or other mental
or
illnesses.
other mental
Yeah.
illnesses. So, and that's a vast amount of our homeless population. Now,
Most of the ones I see, yeah.
yeah, most of
Yeah.
the ones I see that are visible and out in the public. So, to me, the situation with the housing problem is more of a cost issue than it is a supply issue. I don't know if you agree with that, but because I'm not in the housing market. I don't know. I have a house. I have a home. I don't have to look for a home, so I don't know what the inventory is out there for rental properties versus being on the street or whatever. A lot of people have resorted to buying motorhomes and cruising them around and parking wherever they can be. We have a good,
Yeah, and they're considered homeless.
and they're considered homeless, and today it just depends. It depends on what kind of situation you're in. If you got a place where you're parking in a trailer park, I don't think you should be named as a homeless person. If you're parked on the street, well, yeah, you probably should be counted in the homeless population. But that's not how they count it. They count the people that are camping out in Thousand Trails and other trailer parks,
Hmm.
that are travel trailer parks, not actual mobile home parks, but travel trailer parks. They classify them as homeless. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that both of those issues need to be front and center when we go back to the ballot box, and we got to do something. And I don't know.
What did we say? If it was maybe a month or 2 months ago, 640,000 homeless people in LA County.
In LA
County in the
County,
whole LA metropolitan area, something. I mean, it was a huge number, but it was a big area. I mean, LA
six,
is a big place,
it
but
was 64,000. No,
64.
64,000, and they were spending over $600 million.
That's what the numbers were.
That was the
Yeah,
numbers,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. It really is. And just to go forward with what I think that should be done, and I think we really didn't talk about it in the after show after we did that show, but have a place where if you've got a family or a working person, let's call them working homeless, working poor, whatever you want to call them, we have to have a transitional system, uh, a social safety net, if you want to say that, which I would be voluntarily would tax myself to help the system to be able to enable areas of the state that need workers and want residents, and have those residents that are homeless here and put them somewhere else where they want to be viable, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
I'm not talking about shipping the problems. I'm talking about shipping the answers to other cities and counties,
right, right. Yeah. Now,
employment problems.
so to people who, let's say, are let's call them underemployed.
Yeah,
Okay, so they've got a job, but they can't afford even rent an apartment.
right.
That's where the problem starts.
Yeah,
Okay, so if they have a job and they're working hard, why can't they afford an apartment? Where's the disconnect? Is their pay too low or is the apartment too high? And which one can we control? So now if you raise their pay to the point where they can afford an apartment today, well, then they're just going to jack the rent up,
that's typical.
right?
That's typical.
And so then you're back into the same problem.
Yeah,
Also, if you raise their pay, that's going to make your pay, whatever you get, worth less because there's going to be a new competitor in the buying market against you,
I believe there's something to be
right? I mean, there is something to be said about that. I mean, that's what's in some people's minds.
right.
It's like the boss is saying, I can't pay them $15 an hour. I'm only paying myself 45, right?
Yeah, you're not gonna pay 15. You're not gonna pay somebody $15 an hour if you're only making $12 an hour to run your business, and
Right.
then you're $3 an hour in the hole every
Yeah.
day that you close your doors. I mean, that's
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's not going to happen.
yeah, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But in the same token, if you're in a situation where you have an area where the housing values are going up, are they? I guess the question is are the housing values going up proportional to the wage earning potential of 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 a set area?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is complicated because I think there's more of an I want let's compare it to two gold coins. You have a gold coin, bullion coin that you bought from a pawn shop, and then you've got a numismatic one that's encased in a and graded and stuff, and both of them are the same value of coin.
Yeah.
They both weigh
Monetary
the same
value. Yeah.
monetary value, but the
Yeah.
one that was graded is more expensive
More
than
aesthetic value.
yeah,
Yeah.
more aesthetic
Yeah.
value. Okay, so when you take that and you go like, okay, well, I own this house and I own it in a decent part of the area. I mean, we have low crime here and everything like that, right in the area that I'm
Mm-hmm.
at,
Yeah.
and so you know, I look at the my housing value and it goes like, oh, it's X. That's great. I think it's great. I'd love
Yeah.
it to be more, but I'm really not sure if that's really a fair market for my house. I'm just saying, I bought my house for X. It's now worth XX. Fantastic. If I move out of it, am I going to rent my house for what I pay in my mortgage? Or am I going to rent my house for my mortgage plus X? It's a
Well, you
decision.
have to.
You have
It's a
to.
business
It's
decision.
a
You have to rent it for what it costs plus
exactly,
insurance, maintenance, and all the
exactly,
extended costs.
exactly.
So if your mortgage is 2,000 a month, you got to rent your house for 3,000. Period,
Okay.
or don't rent it.
So where's the profit in that, or do you actually get the profit on the back end, like a bit
Yeah.
like a small business owner would do?
Right. Well, you'd get a small profit on that, but you'd be waiting for the back end.
You'd be waiting for the
Now, if
back end.
you're real estate tycoon, then you buy lots and lots of houses and you make a little profit off of each one.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know where that fine line is, but there's a line
Well,
there, and
there's something.
I just don't want
Yeah.
the legislature telling me that either I have to control my rent or control my wage.
Right. And there's something that we're bumping up against, but we're not breaking through to is um slums and ghettos.
Yeah.
All right, because we really don't have much of that here. I mean, maybe on the up north, San Francisco, Oakland, but here in Santa Clara County, there really aren't any
Used to
slums.
be. I
Used to
mean,
be,
yeah,
but now they all got bought up.
it's all been
Yeah,
gentrified. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
So
all been gentrified.
there's not even
I mean,
shitty housing for the poor people. Okay, I mean, really, there's not even shitty housing for
right,
the poor people
right, but
anymore.
it's very heavily subsidized now, and I think the problem is that I
I
don't
don't
think
think that's right either.
and I think we touched on this before is that some of the subsidized housing, which I came out of, and this is the reason why I own my house today, is because we were helped out by a subsidized housing. We were helped out by Hub, and we took advantage of the situation and made correct financial and responsible financial
Yeah,
decisions, and that's what got us out of there. But still, 20 years later, there's still people that are still in the HUD system that I know that still live in the same area that I
right,
lived in, and and they're actually taking advantage of
right.
it.
Yeah, they're
So
not leaving.
there's no
Yeah,
turnover,
right.
and that's a problem. And I think that's a huge problem. And I
Yeah,
think that's why another reason why you have housing prices going up, especially with the safety net programs. But the safety net program that I want to institute, if I was going to get any kind of a program going on like that, is like, yes, there is work out there. There's work in certain areas. There are homes in certain places that you can have, and there's got to be a way that we can get those people back into society, because it only takes a rogue officer to pull you over and convict you of a crime, and all of a sudden you've lost your job, you've lost your home, you've lost
mhm,
everything, and now you're homeless.
yep,
I'm not blaming it on the cops. I'm just saying circumstances
yeah,
happen.
right.
You get laid off. and you're living
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck, which you shouldn't be doing. But that's another show. Um, and you're struck into homeless. Baby daddy takes off, baby mama takes off. All of a sudden, you're stuck with a kid,
Right.
and you have a job, and you have no childcare and no support system around you. All of a sudden, now what do? Are you going to your job, leaving your baby at home, taking your baby to work, whatever the
Right.
case may be?
Yep.
All these situations happen, and we got to be able. Number one, personal responsibility comes into the whole situation, but take away the personal responsibility part, it's still an impact on the society and the taxpayer and the people in your community. And we as a people in our community, we have got to address the situation. So something's got to be done in the next year. I mean, as soon as possible. And we got a vote coming up in 2020, and I think it's very important that we come up with some kind of solution with it that doesn't that doesn't that makes us agreeable, and because government's not charitable, I think that we need to be more charitable as a people when it comes to dealing with this situation. We have to have some real solutions for the real people
Right.
that want to get out of their situation.
And you can look at what other places do. But some of them aren't really like you say. HUD with housing developments. You could take that to an extreme, and you could build tens of thousands of tenement buildings that are studio apartments with casement windows and cinder block walls, and park people in there for whatever they can pay.
Yeah,
But that's not
yeah, but
really
now
the
we're getting,
answer
yeah,
to the problem. When
we're
that's
not getting
full,
back
you're
to
going to
the
have
poor.
another
Yeah,
set.
we're getting back to the poorhouse,
That's what I mean.
type
You
thing.
can build lots
It's
and
just
lots of
like,
poorhouses
you
and
know,
put them in there, but it doesn't solve the problem.
yeah, and you can
And
create
some of them are still going to want to be on the street.
yeah, and you can create useless jobs for them to go to every day, and be able
Yeah.
to support themselves barely, and send them back to these projects. And I just don't think that that's the way to do it. And but
It's
and
not the best way to do it.
it's not the
No,
best way to do it.
no.
But I think in a situation where you hybrid that and make it an actual viable thing for somebody's community that either wants to start their community up or wants to get the workers there, I think it's a viable option for
Yeah,
people, because a
yeah,
lot of people. I think there's a lot of homeless people out there that desire to stay in the area that they are, but it's just not feasible for them to do it. So why not make a transitory opportunity available for them to get them out to where they can make themselves back and get themselves back into community again.
right, right.
I
Yeah,
don't see any reason for doing any
yeah,
of that. So,
yeah. Especially ones that have jobs.
all right. So, hey, we got the Weathered Soul podcast here. You can catch us at weatheredsoulpodcast.libsyn.com. That's the website. You can get us on Stitcher. You can get us on iTunes. Go out there and make sure that you give us a rating. Make sure that you send us a comment at Bruce the Weathered Soul at gmail.com. That's Bruce the Weathered Soul at gmail.com. You can grab us on our Facebook page at the Weathered Soul Podcast, and you can go to Patreon and get some of the extra content that we're going to do right after this show. And we love you to be here, and we thank you for being here. We got lots more to go, a lot more shows to go. We thank you for being here, and what
Yeah.
you got to say, Dougie? Bye bye, Doug.
Do we have fractions of stars? I give you a quarter star.
Give us any kind of star you want, man. Say goodbye, Dougie.
Goodbye, Dougie.
Good
Have a
night,
great
guys.
weekend,
Have a
folks.
great weekend.
Yeah, keep getting off topic there, man. What's going on?
We didn't get off topic today.
Yeah.
We stayed right on topic today.